Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields, and here we are at Radio Row of the NFL Combine here on a Friday. We're going to be here tomorrow as well, but pretty much wrapping up on what has been a long week here in Indianapolis. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the latest rumors and news surrounding, of course, Bengals stars Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins, and going to be taking a bit of a deeper look into some potential draft prospects for the Cincinnati Bengals. Four guys that we're going to be touching on here on today's show. But let's start here with Trey Hendrickson. As I talked about a couple of days ago here on Radio Row, there have been a lot of trade rumors surrounding Trey Hendrickson and potentially leaving the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, when we had Duke Tobin earlier in the week, we of course had that press conference up on our channel. Tobin was adamant that he does not want to trade Trey Hendrickson, but we will see if Cincinnati and Hendrickson and his team are able to come to terms on a long-term extension. Obviously, it's a bit difficult when you're talking about Trey Hendrickson because the production level is so high, but he is kind of in an odd spot with his age, already over 30 years of age, but has had 17 and a half sacks the past two seasons and really is grossly underpaid when you look at the edge rusher market in the National Football League at this point. So I think it's very much a last resort situation for the Cincinnati Bengals if they have to trade him. Again, Tobin was very adamant that he wants Trey Hendrickson to be here for the long term, as well as other stars, including T. Higgins, who we'll get to in a minute, and Mike Gesicki as well. But there are a lot of people around the league that certainly think that lots of teams have interest in Trey Hendrickson becoming a part of their roster, but Cincinnati wants to make him a priority this season and prevent that from happening. All right, let's talk a little bit about T. Higgins now on today's show. There was a report from The Athletic that the New England Patriots are no longer in pursuit of T. Higgins. They really were one of the hot teams, right, that really had a lot of interest in T. Higgins. Think about what that could do for Drake May and that young offense, right? But Mike Vrabel allegedly wants to just really focus on the trenches on the offensive line and the defensive line this offseason, and reportedly they have no interest at this point in T. Higgins. Remember, if you're going to get into the mix with T. Higgins, for T. Higgins at this point, it would require you to lose 2 first-round draft picks. I don't think anybody in their right mind would give up 2 first-round picks for a receiver, really no matter who it is. But T. Higgins, great player, certainly not worth 2 first-round picks. New England, like I said, no longer in the running for T. Higgins, and the Bengals, of course, are looking to reach a long-term deal with Higgins. Expect him to get the franchise tag here in a matter of days, and then we will see if they can ultimately reach a long-term deal. Leads to the pinned comment of today's video. Let me know, do you think T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson will both be back in 2025 for the Cincinnati Bengals? Not one or the other. I'm asking if both will be back for Cincinnati. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. All right, let's talk about some draft prospects here. Of course, we are at the NFL Scouting Combine. A couple of guys that I want to break down, 2 edge rushers, another guy on the interior of the defensive line, and a wide receiver as well. First up on this list is James Pearce Jr. The Bengals, of course, draft at that number 17 overall spot. And Pearce is a guy that went to college at Tennessee, and he really had some incredible numbers during the Combine yesterday. I believe he ran a 4.5 40, which is really incredible, or maybe even a little bit less than that, 4.4, 4.49, 4.48, 4.47, somewhere in that range. Really was an incredible 40-yard dash for James Pearce Jr. Now, he's an edge rusher. It's not like he's a receiver, right, or a running back, so I think you had to take it with a grain of salt. I don't think necessarily the 40-yard dash is as important for an edge rusher as maybe a different position, but I wasn't really high on James Pearce coming into the Combine, but I tell you, just from hanging out here, lots of people, and including the beat writers here in Cincinnati, have a lot of interest in potentially landing James Pearce Jr. at that number 17 overall selection. I was talking to my guy Matthew Peterson, who went to Tennessee in Knoxville. He says he's a little bit worried about the fact that Pearce might not be a guy that can be out there for all 3 downs. He might be a guy that really is more of a pass rush specialist, and that certainly could be a bit of an issue if you're taking a guy like that at number 17 overall. The Bengals, of course, are looking for a guy that can make an immediate impact with this football team, be a reliable guy on defense, and play lots of snaps as well. But I think James Pearce Jr. really did a great job of skyrocketing up some boards yesterday with his performance at the NFL Scouting Combine. Next up, we will be talking about Kenneth Grant here on today's show, and then we'll go back to some edge rushers as well. Kenneth Grant, of course, out of Michigan. Now, he's a little banged up at this point, so he did not test at the Combine, which really is unfortunate. I think Cincinnati viewed Kenneth Grant as a guy that they might possibly want to land in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Bengals, of course, love their Michigan football players, particularly along the defensive line, right? Pearce Jr, who they took in the second round last year. You got Wolverines all over that defense, right? Dax Hill coming off a serious injury, of course, but I think a lot of people have high hopes for Dax Hill in 2025 if he's able to, of course, come back healthy from that injury that he sustained last year. And then, of course, DJ Turner as well, who had that fractured clavicle that he suffered against the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Bengals ultimately love their defensive linemen and their defensive players in general from Michigan, and Kenneth Grant certainly could be a guy. Apparently, he was going to run a 40 less than 5 seconds. Keep in mind, this guy is 340 pounds, just an absolutely massive human being. So a little disappointed we didn't get to see him work out at the Combine. Again, he's a little bit banged up, but I think definitely somebody that the Bengals could target at that number 17 overall selection. Now, the buzz here in Indianapolis is revolving around one Shamar Stewart. We're going to talk about him in a second, but first, make sure you guys hit that sub button if you have not done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. We will be here tomorrow at the NFL Scouting Combine before heading back to the great city of Cincinnati. Get back to our studios. Chris Daughtry, my guy, will be producing our videos, but thought we'd do something a little bit different here at the Combine. Got one of the podiums behind me here right now, but regardless, don't miss out on any Bengals coverage. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. All right, Shamar Stewart. He is a guy that really is turning heads here at the Combine. Now, the production for Stewart in college wasn't really where it needed to be. Of course, he played his college ball at Texas A&M. I was talking once again to my guy, Matthew Peterson. He said he is the ultimate trait guy. If you were to stand next to this guy, he looks like an absolute Greek god. He is just perfectly sculpted, not to get, a little bit weird here on Bengals Breakdown, but I'm just saying the guy's in incredible shape. He's an incredible athlete, and he's doing really great things here at the Scouting Combine. He is running really, really fast. But like I said, the production at Texas A&M was not where, it should be for a guy with his skill set. So you're kind of taking a bit of a gamble. Now, he really didn't find himself in a ton of one-on-one situations when he was at Texas A&M. So if he goes to the National Football League and finds himself in one-on-one situations against an offensive lineman, there's lots of people that think he has the ability to win and potentially wreck games as well at that pass rusher spot. Bengals need somebody opposite Trey Hendrickson that can come in and make an immediate impact on this football team. I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone before that number 17 overall selection, just because he is just absolutely killing it here at the NFL Scouting Combine. Last guy I want to talk about here before we get out of here on Bengals Breakdown is a wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka, out of Ohio State. I know a lot of Ohio State fans are tapped into what we're doing here at Bengals Breakdown. There are some people out there in Bengals land that think it might be a good idea for Cincinnati to take a wide receiver, which for me is a bit of a head scratcher. Certainly get the draw to it, right? It feels like, man, if you can just get one more piece on offense, you literally would be unstoppable. And I think Emeka Egbuka fits in perfectly with this Bengals offense, assuming T. Higgins is back and Jamar Chase. Imagine having those three guys out there on the football field at the wide receiver spot. The Bengals formerly met with Emeka Egbuka, so I think that certainly is something to consider. I look at Egbuka, I think the wide receiver one, definitely Teteroa McMillan out of Arizona, and beyond that, a lot of people say Luther Burden could be that guy, wide receiver two, but it might be Emeka Egbuka in my opinion as well. All he did was produce at Ohio State, and he never was the focal point of their offense, and he's just seemingly a lock for a round one pick, so pretty impressive stuff there from Emeka Egbuka. The guy that's really mature as well. He's got his head screwed on properly. He was a phenomenal leader in Columbus as well. So I don't think it would be a great decision for Cincinnati to take a wide receiver just because of the other glaring needs that you have on your roster, but the Bengals did meet with Emeka Egbuka, and I think that could be a possibility for them at 17 as well. Make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_ for all the latest Bengals updates from here at the NFL Scouting Combine. And we'll catch you next time here from Indianapolis.